Chismis is embedded into our culture. People will talk about other people. Sabi nga nila, pag pinagchismisan ka nila, you've made it. Congrats girl, at ngayon papainit ang panahon at ang political landscape natin. Not only is chismis is in the air, but disinformation as well.
Tama. And the question is, have these politicians made it? Famous na yarn? Sabi nga na isang popular song ni Irene Cara, Fame! I'm gonna live forever. Yun yung lyrics niya. Have we mistaken these politicians for famous celebrities and rock stars? In the midst of all this chismis, what exactly aren't we seeing? Or rather, what exactly is being hidden from us in plain view?
Ayan. Who are we voting for ba talaga, Tita Whitney? Public officials? Or influencers? Or celebrities?
That's a good question. Now it's time for some chismisan with a cause. Kabataan, it's now time. Now, youth talk.
How do I reconcile my loved one's political
How do we
differences?
campaign in a
How do
pandemic?
we engage our candidates?
How do we
What
talk to
if
our
I
community?
don't like my elected officials?
How do you respond to respect my opinion?
It is now time for the voice of the youth to be heard. Now, Youth Talk.
Kabataan ang maririnig, katotohanan ang mananaig. Oras na tayo na, boto mo'y mahalaga. Kung hindi ngayon kikilos, kailan pa ba?
Ayan. Hello po everyone. Magandang araw, hapon, gabi o kung saan mang planetary transits na nangyayari today. It's Aries season. Are we keeping our passions alive and are we always in control? This is Rod and ZanD together with ZanD Baharias hosting this very special episode of Now Youth Talk, 2022's most important conversations discussed.
Yes, and you already know what it is, kids. For these special episodes, we're flipping the script with a special letter sender. Yes, dear viewers, at this critical time when we have to make the most critical decision of our upcoming 6 years, sadyang hindi na mapakali ang ating letter sender sa nakita niyang disinformation sa larangan ng social media at mga chikahan in real life.
Ayan, we've talked about in a previous episode how we should deal with trolls as well as how to deal with historical distortion. But that was only what we consider a dip into the ocean of disinformation, making crash waves that disrupt our youth wave of change. Ika nga, that was only the tip of the iceberg.
I know, and that iceberg is quite dangerous as well. If we have to talk about it. This episode, we talk about the various election rumors making rounds in our online and offline spaces. Ngayong mainit na usapan ng kung sinong bobotohin natin, nagtilang microscope ang pagtingin natin sa mga buhay at sinasabi ng mga susunod na magiging leader ng ating mga komunidad.
Ayan, so Sandy, meron nga isang piece of disinformation ako nabasa sa Facebook recently nung sinasabi nila, buhay pa raw si Rizal at tatay daw siya ni Marcos Sr. What do you have to say about that?
I think it's a very umaabot na yun ng Wattpad levels, yung storytelling natin, parang umaabot sa ibang level. Marami pang different types of fake news. We have a lot of hoaxes. Bakit nga ba? Paano pa nga ba nabuhay si Rizal? Asan siya ngayon? Paano niya naging... Rod, I'm interested to know how the family tree looks like.
I wish to know din, no? Pero grabe talaga ang spread of disinformation, and especially since the election is about to come very near, as in we are 1 month away from it almost, no? Kaya both political parties are making power moves na talaga to control the people and how they view what's real and what's not.
True, and I think that's one of the most important things that they have to focus on now. Kaya siyasatin natin, kilatisin natin, saliksikin natin. Let's look into the deep and rotten roots of this information and let's learn how to address it together. Tara, the library is open. Our letter sender is so eager for us to hear the truth. Mood music, activate. Ayan. So, our letters in this series come from a mysterious Katkat. Rod, I'm excited to meet Katkat. She's mysterious, diba? I wonder who our friend is. And our friend has a lot to say about the state of information in our country. So do we. Marami tayo pwede masabi dito. Each episode, we go through our running list of information that she has encountered with her. I don't know, her all-seeing eye and her flies on the wall. Napakarami. Marami siyang sa Sherlock Holmes na bagay sa background natin kasi detective no nga tayo. Yung mga irregulars ni Sherlock. Tama ba yung term ko? The people that help him out. Anyway, I digress. Napakarami. Marami siyang alam, right? And here's the gist. We don't know that much about Katkat, but she says all will be revealed in due time.
Yan, sobrang interesting character talaga ni Katkat. No? She's mysterious, she's captivating, and she's here to shed light on the truth. Kasama ni Katkat, alamin natin ang katotohanan ng tinatago ng kasinungalingan. Sa ating mga listeners dyan, send your letters to us. We love mail so much. Bukas na bukas ang ating online mailbox at secretariat.nyv@gmail.com. Sumali sa ating chikahan at isa-isahin natin ang mga dapat pag-usapan ngayong 2022.
Yes, Rod! Ready na ba tayo? Kasi ako excited na ako. Are we ready?
I am very much excited and I am very much ready.
I'm ready. Okay, so let's start.
Begin transmission. We have Katkat's second letter right here. Begin transmission. Gumising ng maaga at sama-sama nagsimba kasama ang buong pamilya. Nag-homily si father, something about chismis na nirelate sa feathers ng manok. There's a lesson in there somewhere. Lunch sa Jollibee at palamig ng onti sa mall. Uuwi bandang hapon kung kailan lahat ng palabas sa TV ay Pinoy showbiz talk shows. Just in time kung kailan kompleto ang pamilya for that precious family bonding time. Sounds like the typical Sunday of an average Filipino pre-social media era.
Oo nga, sounds familiar eh. Diba? I think nabuto natin ito dalawa, Rod. And,
For sure.
diba, detail drop, it looks like Katkat belongs to a religious family. We're getting to know Katkat a little bit more. At sabay-sabay pa silang pumupunta sa simbahan. Ang family lunch sa Jollibee, very childhood, but also very typical Pinoy family. Yung pumupunta sa mall para magpa-aircon o magpalipas ng hapon sa Luneta Park. I think we've experienced this, Rod, haven't we?
Ayan, very typical Sunday. And ano nga pala, I just came from Mass. So, a homily that I just heard earlier is that the truth is extremely important, especially in our times right now. Pero sa panahong anyone can be a star and everyone can have their 15 seconds of nano fame on the internet, tila ba hindi na kasing hot topic ang mga dating tinitili ang ta-artist? This doesn't mean that Filipinos put an end to their love of chismis though. Ang 90s rap ng ta-artist. However, notable dito yung pag-mention sa 15 seconds of fame on the internet. Sa lawak nga ba ng internet ngayon, some people gain micro-popularity, garnering thousands of metrics in the process. Sa marketing, tawag dito micro-influencers. Kung tumuloy sila sa path na ito, tawag na sa kanila KOL, which means Key Opinion Leaders. Tilang pedestal yung social media for many of us. Laging ang tanong ng Facebook dati, what's on your mind? At sa Twitter ngayon, what's happening? Fame or not even fame, validation is indeed addicting. Kaya minsan may mga pagalingan ng soundbites sa Twitter or TikTok kapag may away.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting kasi pag nasa TikTok ka, when you, may mga comments doon na, ay, may potential yung sound na to. I'm not sure if you go to TikTok, diba? May potential yung sound na to. So, I wanna ask also, ha? Ako kasi never ko na-experience to. But you, Rod, I feel like this is something may experience ka na ba na naging viral ka? Like that 15 seconds of fame or probably longer, right? Did the fame ever fade?
My very, very first taste of viral fame is when I started making food reviews on Twitter. Like, it really just started as a personal blog, diba? Pero people caught on to the way I reviewed food. Tapos biglang, out of nowhere, nag-review ako ng parang Nor seasoning of all food items, diba? Tapos, as in, tens of thousands yung clicks and retweets. So that was my 15 seconds of viral fame years ago.
I think that's interesting because it means also that people connect with you, right? And I feel like this is something that a lot of people tend to relate to as well, right? Kaya people
Yeah.
get that 15 seconds of fame. Now let's continue with what Katkat says. Katkat says, I see your 24/7 news cycle and raise you Marites with free data. Sabi nga ng isang sickening drag queen, I love peace, but you know what I love more than peace? Some drama. Ngayong
Ooh.
eleksyon, walang sinabi ang drama-rama sa hapon hanggang sa primetime teleserye sa juicy political storylines unfolding before our very eyes.
Alam mo, this is very true. While the important parts of a candidate's run is their platform, track record, pronouncements, and intentions, campaign managers, marketers, and publicists often weave a story or a legend in the making, which should cement their road towards Malacanang. Some examples right now. Galing sa hirap, Manny Pacquiao and Isko Moreno notably used this, with both coming from poverty. Manny Villar once used this in the 2010 presidential elections. Another one is President Ramon Magsaysay, came from a background far from politics and ran with the image of a president emerging from the masses. Kaya siya, hindi mestizo at leader guerrilla noong World War II.
Interesting because we communicate with the people through how we create these narratives. May isa pa, uniting the Philippines, unity. The Marcoses have long nurtured the story that the Philippines have long been wrought by political divide, and now is the chance for them to unite. Notably, their campaign has garnered the support of the Estradas, the Arroyos, Ramoses, and a few more notable people in the scene.
Yeah, and another one is political will. A populist concept is that the Philippines needs a strong man to be able to enact any change in a system turned rotten by spoilers such as oligarchs or corrupt officials. Alam mo, Sandy, 2022 na, pero nandito pa rin yung mindset na yan, na kailangan talaga everyday strong man or just like a male leader is what the country needs.
I know that's a very strong, actually, narrative. I think that, when you look at everywhere in the Philippines and everyday politics, it's something that we tend to hold on to. A lot of people tend to hold on to the concept of this populist leader, right? And so there's a rise, actually, seemingly, may mga research about that, the rise of populist leaders.
Right.
And another narrative that people have is candidate versus corruption. So anti-corruption is a common platform to stand on. A lot of people have given this, but notably, and this is a hot take, it is commonly a platform based on exacting revenge on political enemies. Mala Crisostomo Ibarra, mala
Ayun.
El Filibusterismo.
Yan.
May revenge, And anti-corruption stances are espoused strongly by leaders like Ping Lacson, Manny Pacquiao. Ika nga nila, corruption is the root of the country's many ills.
Right, grabe no, Noli Me Tangere things pa rin in the year of 2022. Grabe talaga. And so here's another one, no? Prophecies. And I quote, the last time we toppled a dictator, a woman took over. Or, and I quote again, the last man standing is a woman. Or, Marcos is the destined next president of the Philippines. This appeals largely to Philippine mysticism and faith. Very witty, yes, but it's very clear it carries little weight in terms of substance and platform.
It does actually, very little weight in terms of substance and platform, and yet it works. Right? Like
Kasi
these
ang hilig
narratives.
talaga ng Filipino masses sa, what's that term again? Mga haka-haka. Ang bilis nila
Oo.
maniwala when it comes to things like those.
Yes, and we're also very superstitious, I think. We tend to, Nostradamus sort of thing, we tend to hold on to that. Diba?
Right.
But I think it's important that even if these narratives and stories exist, we must remember that these stories or narratives, ganyan lang sila. Like, these are just narratives lang. And responsible voters, we have to dive in deeper than these stories. Katkat is making it very clear here that she notices that politics is turning into a primetime teleserye. And it should not be. Primetime teleserye.
Nagiging siya no? The appropriate term for this is a spectacle talaga, which a lot of
Yeah.
Filipinos love pa naman kasi lahat tayo super hilig sa mga teleserye. And so, may naalala ako, no? Like for example, the most popular television show in Philippine primetime, ang Probinsyano. There was an arc earlier this year where rival families and family members were running for president of the Philippines. Kaya sobrang naiengganyo pa rin manood ang mga Pilipino ng teleserye kapag may pinasok na politika or any political
Yeah.
arcs. in these narratives, no?
Meron ring Wildflower, si Lily Cruz, si Ivy
Yeah.
Aguas, the black wedding dress. Have you watched that? Have you watched
I
that
think I have.
episode?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting storyline as well because she topples a landlord family who was trying to kill her, and she was
Oh.
enacting revenge, right? And she was doing all of these things. And I think I just want to add lang rin when we talk about these things kasi it also talks about, this is something I've read before, Benedict
Mhm.
Kirkley, everyday politics, right?
Right.
Filipinos are very political, and we
Super.
bring that, like for example right now, Rod, we're talking about this. Pag nasa labas tayo and we're getting a cup of coffee in whatever coffee shop, we will still talk about politics.
All the time, as in no matter who you're with, but whether it be family or friends. And it's also nice that you mentioned Wildflower because I remembered this movie that we actually screened in UP Cine Adarna, On the Job,
Oh yeah.
directed and written by Eric Mati. So On the Job centers around crime syndicates, no, that temporarily release contracted prison inmates to carry out political assassinations for those in power. And the twist here is that the crime syndicates are actually run by politicians. And what's actually very frightening is that these are facts. As in, the movie is based on actual events. As in, actually, nasa intro pala yun ng film eh. So, it's also frightening to think that to this very day, 2022, it's still happening. There is tyranny and brutality in politics, and a lot of us don't even know about it, and we won't know about it unless we actually take a deep dive into what's real or what's not. That's why it's our job to state the facts and learn what the facts are.
I agree. Kaya nga we are on the job right now, diba? Just to take the
Ayun.
title of the movie. But
Ganda.
we are on the job to really discover what these mistakes are, online, even with the people we talk to. And
Right.
ngayon, some chismis ngayon more malicious than ever before, which is exactly why the difference between misinformation and disinformation exists. There's a difference, right? And the line
Yeah.
dividing them is malice. Madaling puksain ang misinformation na madalas nagmumula sa confusion and miscommunications na mali lang ng rinig, ganun, right? Pero kapag sinasadya na, Rod, di bang kwento na yun, di ba? Pag sinasadya na, it's different. That's disinformation now because there's malice.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's read on. Katkat now shares what Katkat found.
All right, so reading on, sabi nga ni Katkat, reality is stranger than fiction, ika nga. Pero how real naman itong mga nakalap kung usap-usapan sa social media? Sinits ite, presidential na. All right, let's read it one by one. Hashtag let Manny lead the prayer. May past drug use at past homosexual relationships. Si Manny. Oh, here's another one. Duterte light. Malinis raw at galit sa korap pero may questionable financial records. Duterte light di umano. Another one. Lenny Lugaw and Lenlen Loser mahina sa math at science. 4 times 40 equals 1600 raw. Hindi alam ang pinagkaiba ng nerve at vein. So that's for our presidential candidate Lenny. And here's one last. Solid snort. Mahilig mag-snort at magpa-rebrand ng family image nila sa Cambridge Analytica. Si one and
Sinachite
only
nga
BBM.
talaga to. Who are these? Hashtag let Manny lead the prayer. Si Duterte Light, Lenny Lugaw and Lenlen Loser, Solid Snort. We have all these names, that we place onto people. And sigaw nga ng mga trolls, kung totoong may troll farms, bakit wala kayong mahuli o makasuhan? But a University of Oxford study, this is interesting because a lot of these trolls tend to deny their very existence, which is nice to look into. But a University of Oxford study confirmed what government critics have long suspected. The study found that $200,000, or that's 10 million pesos, was spent to hire trolls who would spread propaganda for the current administration and target its opposition. Duterte himself even admitted paying people to defend him on social media, but said, this only happened during campaign season.
confirmed ito, dear listeners and viewers. We discussed in an earlier episode that an Oxford study found the use of millions of pesos to disinform the Filipinos and to throw the populace into online discord. Not even in the social media app. Literally pag-aaway-away online. Francis Hagen, a whistleblower from Facebook, has mentioned the social media site's proclivity to encourage disagreements and arguments to spur engagements in content. These then become fuel for the users to become more open to sharing more about themselves and to giving more data to the algorithm. So as I've mentioned, no, with all these things, these have been going on for not just since 2016, as in from the inception of social media. Basta politics, ginagamit talaga ang social media to leverage any political party or any politician or any person in power actually.
True, and social media is a powerful tool talaga, you know. You have exchange of information. You have people who tend to, you know, a supporter of a different politician, for instance, going to, you know, and looking for fights. But let's continue with what Katkat says. She says, ang dami at ang bilis ng mga pangyayari. Ano na nga bang latest? Teka, tandaan natin, mass destruction, no, I'm kidding, mass distraction is mass destruction. Baka masyado tayo naaaliw sa mga isyong walang kabuluhan at nalimot na natin ang mga problemang mas kailangan nating pagtuunan. You know, she has a point.
That's a very good point actually, and that's the first time I've heard that phrase. Tas sobrang tumagos na siya ngayon pa lang. Grabe ka, Katkat, ha? Mass
Yeah, iba siya.
distraction is
She's
mass
smart.
destruction.
She's mysterious, but she's ano rin, captivating yung words niya eh.
Yeah. There is a concept, no, Sandy, in communication called the spectacle. Tatagal na tayo ng dekada kung isa-isahin natin yung concept na ito, but the gist is that merong mga current events na pumapasok sa ating news cycle that seem important. Maybe by their relation to the people in our vicinity, our personal values and aspirations, or by our basic news values. May lumabas na content that is made to rattle us, and to quote Katkat, mass distraction is mass destruction. Ginagawang teleserye ang politics para di na natin mapansin ang primetime balita na umiere araw-araw.
Has this been used in the Philippines? So that's a question. Nagamit ba tong concept ng spectacle in the Philippines? Frequently, in the martial law period, there was an ongoing conflict between the church, the media, the state on the showing of bomba or sex films in cinemas. Bomba films were proliferated largely before the declaration of martial law, and while they were outlawed in the dark period, some films passed the censors and were premiered in cinema screens back then, before these types of films, right? On another note, Imelda Marcos's excesses back then from her huge shoe collection that took in a new word in the dictionary, Imeldific, you know, that's a new vocabulary that we have apparently, it's a new word, to her seamstress blinding fashions served as a literal spectacle, as it was like lipstick on a pig when it tried to conceal the many atrocities of the regime.
Right. And if I may add nga pala, no, now that you mentioned Bomba Films, I actually made a research paper on that. Pero the gist of what I'm about to say is that sobrang totoo. During the martial law period, meron talagang conflict between church, media, and state. And Bomba Films were there because we have to wake up the people about the atrocities that the Marcos regime has been doing on the people. And sa sobrang lala kasi ng censorship nung time na yon, the only way people could actually be aware of what's going on or what the current state of the country is through these films. So, with Bomba Films, even if there's like gratuitous nudity, it's there as a spectacle. Pero the real agenda is to show what life is like in the Philippines during the Marcos regime. And so, let's go back to the letter na binigay sa atin ni Katkat. Sabi niya sa letter, maybe boring politics is the best politics. Let's do away with personality politics and push for platform-based campaigning.
Amen. Katkat, I have to agree with you on that. Sabi nga ni Jules in an earlier episode, in an earlier special episode, politics is supposed to be boring. Pero I'll add, how can you get people involved and critical if they aren't interested in what's happening? Right? Because sometimes what gets people going is personality politics talaga. We're very loyal to a person, that we forget that behind that person carrying these political views, there's a platform, right? And so how can we get people involved if they aren't interested in what is happening?
Actually, parang super rare case na nga these days, no, to actually talk to someone who isn't interested on what's happening because since the elections are so near, chances are the person you're talking to already has a stance. So they are
Yeah.
already involved in what's happening. Pero sige, just to answer the question, if the person really isn't interested in what's happening, like sobrang mema or deadma lang siya, no, about the current state of politics here, we have to let them know that they have to take a stand because the country isn't gonna improve or we aren't gonna wake up to a brighter future if neutral lang sila. Diba? That's like the worst thing actually. If you are a
Yeah.
person who doesn't have a stand on things right now.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Sandy?
That's interesting, the word neutral, because there's a quote that I heard before. This is non verbatim. It's not that evil men just do evil things, it's that good men do nothing. And, as I was saying in kanina, if we remain silent in times of political unrest, then we are on the side of the oppressor. And we have to take that stand kasi. We have to, and just going back to the homily, kaninang umaga, I was scrolling through Facebook, and one of the things that I saw there, they said, if it was your last day on Earth, what would you do? For you, Rod, what would you do if it was your last day on Earth?
Literally speaking, if it was my last day on earth, sasabihin ko na lahat ng katotohanan na pwede kong ibato on social
Yeah.
media. Because if you have like 24 hours, then I think no one could hurt you anymore after those 24 hours. So let's just spill all the facts, diba? And
Yeah.
at least wake up the people with the remaining amount of time that we have. That's the least we could do, actually.
Yeah, but
Sige, go,
I'm
go,
just
go.
gonna add. I'm just gonna add to it as well, because in that line they say that we talk about what we're gonna do at the end of our lives. Some people will go wild. They will do anything that they want to do. And
Right.
for all the Catholics out there who are going through the Holy Week right now, one of the lines that they said there was Jesus knew, and he decided to wash feet. And I think that's interesting, right? Because
Oh.
we then push that narrative. No, we do things not just for ourselves but for other people as well. So ayun, just an interesting thing to give. But what about the media, Rod? I'm interested in the media. What is the media's role in getting people involved in politics? Because some people would argue that it's the fourth estate. They change how people view things. So what do you think the media should do?
In essence, as in I'm not even speaking from ano na, like what I've learned from like university. I'm about to speak from what my parents have taught me. The role of the media is to simply tell the truth. It's really as simple as that. There wouldn't be any social discord if we are fed the truth, diba? And the sad reality here is that the media is being torn apart by all sorts of political parties. I'm not gonna name drop anyone, no, pero the truth really isn't out there yet. Especially since the nation is incredibly divided and it's so frustrating talaga, no? That's why we really have to take a stand. If the media isn't the last resort, then we are.
Yeah,
We, the
you're right.
people,
I
are
like
the
that.
last resort. Yeah.
That's great. And one other thing that they talk about when it comes to media and getting people involved is that you have to angle it towards a narrative, right? We are doomed to be told stories over and over again. Paulit-ulit na lang, our bedtime stories. And is this bad in the first place? Is it bad to have these narratives? Bakila and Active Vista introduced to us the concept of narrative building and narrative change, in which this isn't something we can shake off from our culture. We must make our narratives off of our narrative should come from the culture. It should be produced by the culture that creates it. We must continue, and you must have that narrative of new politics and governance mainstream, defeating the current anti-discourse and apathetic narrative. So in other words, I think kailangan nating ipakita na there's a point in taking part in conversation.
Precisely.
And I think it's nice now to move on to the last line that Katkat says. Katkat says, let's make politics boring, but efficient again. End of transmission. That was the message. Now it's time to pass it on. I hope what Katkat shared today fueled you to vet your sources well and to consume media more mindfully.
Alright, para makatulong sa ating pagsisiyasat para sa katotohanan, here are some guidelines on how to spot and address disinformation online and in your community. Number 1, keep critical. While today's culture of conspiracy is fueled by a long and brutal campaign to discredit our mainstream information providers, there is something essential we must extract and bring to light in this new practice. Always remain critical of the information you receive. Check your sources as well as your sources' sources. As in, ano lang siya, no? You may be receiving the truth, but if the other person isn't, parang wala rin. Kasi you
Yeah.
have to be unified with the facts that you have. Differentiate between primary sources from while the event was happening, secondary sources processed from after the event happened, and tertiary sources written with accounts about the event.
That's interesting. Now we also have our second point, 3D. Madaling alalahanin, that's one direction times three. Discredit and deplatform disinformation. Again, that's discredit and deplatform disinformation. Disinformation peddlers have to be neutralized. If in social media, refrain from giving them any traffic or metrics. Don't screenshot the disinformation and refrain from sharing, quote tweeting, liking, or replying to them. Don't give them the attention that they actually want.
Right, tama po kayo dyan, Ma'am Sandy. It has been revealed by many studies that social media algorithms cater strongly to disagreements and the polarization of people of opposing opinions. Iwasan mag-away. Let's always go back to starting constructive conversations.
Yes, I think that constructive conversations actually work more because you're not imposing it. I don't think a lot of people like to be imposed ideas, so that's very hard. But this is all the more reason for us to start conversations on the ground without the help of the internet, because that's very powerful, right? This information spreads into communities with impunity. Consider spreading materials that counter and discredit this information and strengthen the narrative of truth. That leads us to our final tip for today.
Which is amplify. That's the final tip of the day. Amplify po, mga kaibigan. We cannot claim to be experts in every field, nor do we want to. Let's foster this culture of critical thought by sharing the truth in any way that we can. Our letter sender, Katkat, will be sharing materials you can share with your community on the ground. So, quick recap lang, no, Zandy? So, how can we fight disinformation in our own way?
That's interesting. And I will just steal what my friend Migo said a few episodes ago. Is to support or join groups that fight this. As a collective, we're powerful, right?
Right.
Two heads are better than one, but 1,000 heads are better than two, right?
As in 998 more times better than two heads.
Yeah.
no?
And I think that joining these groups will help people really recognize that, there's power in the collective narrative. So,
Right.
what Katkat said a while ago, and, we're talking about this information in the internet with the help of Katkat. Those are just letters. And Rod and I, kami lang yung mga boses ng letrang yon. You guys are the vessels for the information. Kayo ang magiging kinatawan niya sa pagsulong ng katotohanan sa ating komunidad. We're counting on you, dear listeners. Kayo talaga, it's you
Ayan.
guys.
So we're now at the tail end of our discussion, and while we close out our episode for today, may paunting plug portion muna tayo.
Ano ang plugs natin? I'll start with me quickly. Honestly, all I have to plug is that you guys follow my Instagram if you guys want to see me there. That's at Crisostomato. So na-mention kanina no limitang. I'm quite a Rizal girl, but yes, that's Crisostomato, as in Crisostomo plus tomato at the very end. And the only thing I just also want to plug, guys, check your sources. Check your sources again and again. What about you, Rod?
Ang may pa-plug ko lang po, two things. My humble IG din po. You guys could follow me at shep.rod. Madalas po ako mag-share ng factual information dun mga kaibigan. And please do like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel, Recreate. We always do a lot of episodes talking about politics. Meron din po kaming upcoming episode pala na surprise pa for now. Pero ayun po guys, YouTube channel namin at Recreate. So ayun
I'm
po.
obsessed with Recreate.
Oh my God.
I just want to say, there are times when I cannot sleep and I just literally watch it, like binge watch it. Talo niya pa sa akin yung Criminal Minds. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's what I watch at night. Also, guys, just a quick plug as well. You guys should watch UAAP Season 84. It is ongoing. The volleyball games are coming soon. And the basketball is ongoing right now. So you guys should check that out. Again, and Recreate, you guys, binge watch it. It's such a fun channel to watch. This special episode series would not be possible if not for the vital support given to us by #FactsFirstPH. Sabi nga ni Nobel Peace Prize laureate Maria Ressa, without facts, you can't have truth.
Ayan, ulitin po natin. Kasi tumagos na naman yung quote na yun sa akin. Without facts, you can't have truth. Kaya mga kaibigan, who will you vote for if you don't have the facts? How many times have you been attacked online because you challenged the lie? You are not alone. To protect our elections and our democracy, we need to protect the facts.
Yes, and join more than 100 groups, coalitions, media, civil society organizations, business groups, the church research groups, and legal organizations that are working together around a first of its kind initiative called #FactsFirstPH.
All right. #FactsFirstPH brings together various sectors that are committed to promoting truth in the public space and exacting accountability from those who harm it with lies.
Yes, and ask us through our email address to know more about this network.
Ayan. So, tapos na ang episode natin, guys. We'll see you out there, kabataan. Join us in this series of episodes as we read each of Katkat's transmissions of truth.
Yes, and ngayong 2022, ang panawagan ng Now You Vote ay kabataan ang maririnig, katotohanan ang mananaig.
Ayan. It's time to exchange your views and knowledge with your peers. Engage your communities and candidates for a meaningful change beyond the ballot, and commit to your right to suffrage as your vote defines the Philippines of our generation. And maybe the next.
Definitely the next, I believe so. At bukas na bukas ang aming online tanggapan for youth activation sessions and resources to help you make your this is such an incredibly big decision, especially on May 9th, and to nurture your important conversations. Email us at secretariat.nyv@gmail.com. Again, that's secretariat.nyv@gmail.com.
O sige, para ma-stress pa natin lalo, no? One last time, guys. That's secretariat.nyv@gmail.com. And you can now also join our Discord server. Maraming mga kabataan, nasa Discord lang talaga sila every single time. So, makiugnay, makipagtalakay at magboto kasama ng inyong kapwa kabataan sa discord.gg/nowyouvotehub.
Discord is such a fun place to be in, I just want to say. And it's so
really
easy
is.
to be there, right? And now it's so great that we're able to have these youth activation sessions, join groups, you guys. And it is our pleasure to spend the last 40 or so minutes with you guys. This has been ZanD with Rod, reminding you to participate in 2022's most important conversation and to make your 2022's biggest decision on May 9, 2022. See you next episode. Bye!